Welcome to Cover to Cover Book Beats. I'm your host, Roger Nichols, and this is author interview number 871. And that is a lucky number because today we have not one, not two, three books to talk about, all by the same author and part of an exciting new science fiction series. The author, Matt Simons, is what we would sometimes call hooked on creativity. He's worked at more than a dozen different jobs to support that passion for the arts, including stints as a mail carrier, assembly line worker, and a weapons manufacturer, pool cleaner, dishwasher at a Mexican restaurant, and medical transporter of both the living and the dead. Currently fixes computers for his local school district. All of this so he can exercise his creativity. He has a decade's worth of experience playing bass for a number of bands, most notably Sorrow's Ruin. He has since launched a solo career writing and performing original material from his End of the Earth book series. Now, that series begins with A Battle for Tomorrow, followed by Family Obligations, and then War for the Stars. And having devoured all three in less than 48 hours, I am eager to welcome our guest, Matt Simons. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the amazing intro.
It was a lot of fun. Were you always going to be a writer or a musician or both? How did that work out?
Well, I always wanted to tell the story of, I always had wanted to tell stories, but
Mhm.
I struggled in the reading classes. I was in special ed for most of my life,
Wow.
but yeah, dyslexia and a learning disability.
Mhm.
However, after a certain point, I actually dedicated my life to becoming a police officer. Yeah, I was going to be a cop. I
Mhm.
got a degree in criminal justice. I went through all the processes to become a cop, but then got permanently denied from the police department because I'm colorblind.
Oh my goodness. I
Yeah,
had
didn't
no
know I was
idea.
colorblind. Found out then.
Wow. Wow. Interesting. I did not know that. Of course, well, you would know what about positions on stoplights is the only thing I can think of right at the top of my head.
Well, I can see the different colors for the stoplights. It's a certain shades like blues, purples,
Oh,
greens, and reds. So like a really dark red looks brown to me. So
okay.
if I were to put out a APB on someone in the wrong colored shirt,
Yeah.
my testimony would be thrown out. I think the only state that's not an issue is Iowa, but how long till they have a lawsuit that changes? And I didn't want to uproot my life for that.
Yeah, probably not. I'm glad that's the case. So I just have to ask some a little bit more background about yourself because this is fascinating to discover. Of all the jobs, we only mentioned a few of them here. What's been the most useful in providing experience that informs your writing?
Uh, hmm. I would say lately it'd probably be being a medical transporter.
Mhm.
The joke name is the last responder.
Oh, I love that. That's great. This is one of the reasons I love to do this. We get insights in all kinds of fields on that. Uh,
Yeah.
and
Well, for example, you just meet so many people at a hospital
mhm.
that you would never meet out on in public. You'd never spend time talking to, but because you got 10 minutes in between moving them from a unit to get a procedure done, you usually strike up a conversation. They're usually nervous. So you just, hey, how you doing? What do you do? Just talk to them. You get a lot of insight, but then you also just get a lot of human experience of people being generally upset because they're in a hospital.
Yeah.
And then you get the dark humor from the other people who work there. Like, oh my goodness, the jokes that you would get canceled for, but you do them just because it gets you through the day at the hospital.
I love that. Love that indeed. We should talk a little bit, that leads us into some of the characters of the book. Um, Without revealing too many goodies on the inside, perhaps you could describe the plot for us for the first book, A Battle for Tomorrow. Sorry,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So the first book uh, is a sense of if you had a chance to start over with who you are now, but like when you were a kid, all the knowledge you have, the confidence you've grown, suddenly you're back then in like seventh grade, how much differently you would react to everything. The story is of Jason, who he's sent back after some serious traumatic experiences in the Third World War, and now has a belief he can change things. And he does, but not necessarily for the better, which is revealed in the second book, Family Obligations, where the consequences of the time travel set in. And then book three is really him finally coming of age, accepting everything, accepting who he is, what he's done, and what the world is now.
Mhm. What's interesting to me is and I think I mentioned it to you in an email that when I read the first book, The Battle for Tomorrow, I said the elevator pitch should be Starship Troopers meets Groundhog Day. Did you have a pitch?
No,
Oh, okay.
I should, but the uh, it's just I'd been working on that book here and there until about 2020 when everybody got locked inside. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to type. I would clean pools in the morning, take a class, finish homework for my class for computer science, and then just type because I couldn't do anything else.
Yeah.
And originally, so spoiler warning for the first book, it's in the advertising, it's on the back of the book. Jason sent back in time. The original pitch was starting at the time travel section. And I realized there's so much missing of the character development. So I'm like, let's start earlier. Let's just start at the beginning of World War III. How would it start? And how would just some random kid get pulled into this? And it just kind of flowed from there.
It did. It did. What's interesting to me is you blend lots of tropes in this. You're getting getting a coming of age story. You're getting actually the future time travel. Go back in time with all the knowledge I have now. You have a military training story, and there's actually in book two some generational saga about the Kane family. So
Yeah.
I find that all rolls into that. So are these themes you consciously set out, or do they evolve as you're writing?
Bit of both. For the entire series, I have a generalization of what I want to do, and I know how I'm going to end it. But for the most part, the individual, I just kind of just start going because if I plan out every little detail, I'm going to miss things. And
Yeah.
but it's all just been go with the flow of how it feels as this character would react in these situations. The original plan, actually, since you've read Family Obligations,
Mhm.
there's a bit of play in the title because it wasn't going to go in that direction.
Oh,
It
very
wasn't
interesting.
supposed to follow Angel at all. The original plan was just to follow Barry Kane, and it was going to have that ending. That ending was always going to be the ending.
Okay.
However, it was going to be from just Barry's perspective in the original timeline that Jason left.
Okay.
And up to the readers to how did Jason save it? It's up to what they believed. But everyone I talked to, my family, my friends who read the book, all wanted to know what happened to Engel. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I have to write it so that way he's in the story. So that's why in book two you have two protagonists. You have Engel and Barry. So what people wanted to read and what I wanted to write accumulated together.
One of the things I often ask writers is they have to develop the characters. Do you have a backstory that you write before them before you even sit down to write them into the story?
Well, with the Kane family, I have their entire family line written out. Jason's story, he's just some kid in high school. He doesn't
Yeah.
need a massive backstory.
Yeah.
He's any 17-year-old kid about to turn 18 and go off into the world.
Yeah.
But taking examples from the 60s in Vietnam, how many 18-year-old kids right out of high school drafted and went to fight?
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Excellent, excellent stuff there. I want to talk a little bit more about the second book in the series because one of the things I am really fond of is a sudden change that makes you reevaluate everything that's happened before. At the very beginning of the second book, Family Obligations, there's a massive change. And it reminds me that there are stories that are like an onion, you peel to get to a core of truth in the center. And there are other stories, like this series, that every time you look at it expands out into greater and greater territory. And I'm wondering just how big can that thing get?
Oh, uh, pretty big.
Yeah,
That I think you're talking about chapter one, right?
yeah.
Okay. So that was very much of let's mix in some conspiracy theory. Let's give a face to why the war started. Let's
Mhm.
just put a face on it. And for those of you who are interested, I do have art commissioned by Luke Inc. of that face.
Aha.
And if you read book three, it should be at the very last page. But Luke Inc. I had this commissioned for the face of everything.
Yeah.
And you know exactly who this is.
Exactly. And I love it. It is perfect.
Yeah.
Every
Every
once in a while, when you read something, you have this mental image and you see somebody that captures that because you're so
yeah.
good at evoking it. So well done on his part.
Luke Inc. I found him on Instagram and I just loved his artwork. And when I hit him up, he was very nice about it. He's come to Tucson Comic Con a few times, so it was really amazing that he drew that up for me.
Right. I think one of the things that there I found as I go through, I take a lot of notes, and I discovered a lot of things that I'm looking to see on bumper stickers soon here because there are such aphorisms as follow orders and try not to die, or no unnecessary thoughts, only rage and the will to live. I can see those at the back of some Chevy someday easily. I think you have a marketing opportunity here.
That'd be cool. You know, honestly, maybe I will. I'm building the fan base right now. Fan base is very limited. I am self-published.
Yeah, I understand, but hey, you just never know what marketing opportunities might be in there.
You know, if people want a bumper sticker of those catchphrases, I will gladly start making them and selling them. I need
Okay,
money.
anybody who's watching this, we'll give you your contact information. You can find him online. He's available.
Yeah.
Uh,
There's
Um,
a Yeah, I'll gladly make that stuff. Because again, I need money. I'm working two jobs right now. This is my first day off in like 2 months.
wow. Well, you mentioned that you mind sharing with us? You said you prepare computers for the schools.
Yeah, so I fix computers for a local school district here. It's a great job for me in particular in writing. It's how I'm about halfway through on book 4.
Hmm.
So good news for you.
Yeah,
So
indeed.
about how I'm able to, while working on computers, you're oftentimes just stuck there staring as it loads. I
Yeah,
like to bust out my computer and do a little typing, or while I'm on
sure.
lunch break,
Yeah.
get a little work done. But on the weekends, typically I go back to working at the hospital moving bodies.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I
So
mean, it's money.
the descriptions that are of there are should we put this way a number of bodies described because active war, heavy duty active war. Um, Obviously, is that informed by what you do?
Yeah, yeah. There's a bit of when you work in a hospital, body parts and things that you consider gross and in horror movies, you just see.
Hmm.
It's just like, oh, there's a severed leg. All right,
Yeah.
I guess I gotta take that to the lab.
Yeah.
Funny story about that was they have to go in the fridge in the lab. And when I opened the fridge, a bunch of the legs just fell on me because there's a bunch of legs in there, and I had to shove them in. That was not a fun day.
This is a Legolanch on top of you there, I guess. Um, there, this, there are some interesting tidbits too, and I want to pull this one out, which is an observation I had not picked up on. I'm a poli-sci grad, but that was 55 years ago, so I'm keeping in touch with the local stuff. Was And I will quote this from you. He says, "We are far more terrifying than those commies. We are well practiced in international war." When was the last time either of them actually had a large-scale conflict that wasn't against a bordering country? That was an interesting observation. Obviously you made that, or you found somebody who did. I thought that was intriguing.
So a lot of the military input I got for the stories was talking to the lead singer of my metal band. Well, he's not lead singer anymore. He had another job he took, but he was an ex Marine veteran. He served in Iraq and Afghanistan. I knew him as Ibn Terra. That's not his real name. I found out recently. He
Mhm.
just wanted to be called that.
Cool.
We'll keep calling him that because he keeps changing his name.
Okay.
But he served over there, and I'd get a lot of military input from him, and I'd bounce stuff off of him all the time, like, "Hey, what about this?" And he'd point that out, like, "No, this is how it actually works." Oh, when they serve you steak and lobster, that means they're about to ship you out. So it's like, oh, great food. You're about to go deal with stuff.
Yeah, yeah. That was a nice touch, by the way. I figured that might be actually real because it just sounds like the government in that. There was a couple of fun things that I found. Um, in You had a tiny little detail that you put in there twice, which I really enjoyed. Military surplus tents marked 1950 on it show up in two places, actually. Once in the barracks in Afghanistan and once in the tent prison in Maricopa County. And it felt like it tied together just a little bit. And it's a full by moment, but this is the class that you have there. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that was not on purpose. That's actually just where the tents that are stationed out there are left over from.
Hmm.
Tent City here in Arizona, George Arpaio, he actively got that are left over from the Korean War to make Tent City. And then because there's just been so many battles out in the Middle East, tents are left over from there. I did not plan that. It just kind of worked that way. And so I'm glad that you found that connection.
Yeah, it's again, you try to look for the small stuff, the telling detail, and that's a telling detail. I have to say. I think one of the other things when I mentioned Family Saga about the Canes, I mean, you have a hint, and at one point they say that the very first one goes all the way back to Rome, but you also have some detailed stuff about great grandpa, grandpa, and dad, and yeah, right generation. That feels like it was fun to write. Was it that much fun to put together?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I'm working on little tidbits, working on the prequel for the series that will be Jack Kane's story, Great Grandpa
Ah,
Jack. I will tell his story. I fully intend on it. And I will say book 4 is Austin Kane's story.
okay.
So the original plan was the series just be fully based on the Kane family.
Uh-huh.
I just thought it was an inch. I came up with them years ago, and I really just thought it was a great little family saga.
Well, I hear elements or at least echoes of the Sackets by Louis L'Amour, which I eagerly read from the 1600s to Outlaw West. So yeah, I felt that that background was there in you. Are you a good historian?
Yeah, a bit.
Yeah.
I dabble a good amount, a lot of it.
One of the things that I wanted to talk a bit about is your music because I did looked a couple of the things that are online. And this is pretty dark stuff. This is metal stuff. Do you think that that informed your writing at all?
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. As I'm writing each book, I get inspired, and I release a song for each book to be inspired. I'm just finished editing the lyric video for Into the Grave, which will go to this book 3,
Mhm.
and that's it's a sad song.
Uh, where can people find this stuff?
They're all on YouTube, streaming everywhere. My music name is Nightstand Matt.
Ah,
I I earned the nickname because I carried a nightstand full of weights down 3 flights of stairs, 2 blocks. I didn't realize it was full of weights until like the next day. We literally broke open the bottom drawer and pulled out like uh, two 20-pound weights, two 10-pound weights, a couple of leg weights, and a car jack.
my
So
gosh.
yeah, everybody in the metal band started calling me Nightstand. I was like, okay, well, I'll just lean into this.
That's perfect. Perfect. And I'm not going to arm wrestle you anytime soon, that's for sure.
It's all core strength. I literally just was dragging it after a point.
Oh my goodness. When you see the series going, and again, every time it gets bigger and the scope gets beyond and off planet and into the galaxy, how many books do you think this is going to roll, or do you have a plan?
The original plan was it to be 4,
Hmm.
but and then 2 spin-offs, the prequel, and then
Yeah.
actually what book 4 is going to be was going to be a spin-off, and I decided, you know what, let's just make it part of the main series.
Uh-huh.
But so main series is going to be 5 books, and then I'll have the Jack Kane story as number 6.
Okay. And you
So
said,
that's the current plan.
yeah, one of the things that I also like to ask series authors, if you have the last scene in your head, and it sounds like you do.
I do. I do. I
Good.
don't want to give it away, but
No, no,
it's
no, no, but you know it,
the
and that,
title of the book. It's in the
yeah,
title of the series.
yeah, okay. What a surprise. Okay. Um, what's something surprising about you that you like people to know that they don't generally?
uh, I mean, I guess the music is the main thing,
Mhm.
telling them that I do make music. And if all this does sound too sad for the listeners, I did just release a new song dedicated to my apartment neighbors titled Break Up Already. It's nice and fun. It's played on a banjo. It's written out of spite and annoyance. And I even entered it into the Ernie Ball Battle of the Bands for the Warped Tour. I know I'm not going to win that,
Yeah.
but I just thought it'd be really funny to enter in a song about just how annoying my neighbors are.
You know, that some of the best music comes out of frustration,
Yes.
and inspiration can come from frustration. I've heard that from a number of authors and writers. Um, Trying to think, as I understand it, just today, as we record this on the 21st of February, the third book is now out, available.
Yes. Yes. I was just before we started this, I was I approved it on Ingram Spark. The paperback is available worldwide and should be everywhere online for book three, War for the Stars. Buy it on Amazon because it helps with the algorithm. And yeah, it just usually helps with the algorithm with those guys.
Okay. And I want to make sure that we have contact information for people who would like to get a hold of you, want to read these, want to correspond with you. This is what happens when you have good writers. You get good fans that come after it. Okay, you can find the book available, but how do you get a hold of you?
Uh, so my main public one is on Instagram, nightstand underscore Matt. That's my main public social media. I am on Twitter under the same thing, but I don't really post much on Twitter. Just
Okay,
I,
Instagram is
yeah, same with
Instagram.
I got a Blue Sky as well, but also don't post that much on there. I mainly just post on Instagram.
Okay.
And I do have a website, nightstandmatt.com, and I am on YouTube where I am releasing music videos, and I plan to release a few more songs soon.
Okay. Well, we have been absolutely fantastic. Again, I loved the book. I felt echoes of Heinlein in it. I felt echoes of all sorts of people, of Ted Sturgeon. A lot of the classics are working its way through you. So, thank you
Appreciate
so
that.
much for your time today, and wish you all the best. And I want to see book four.
Oh, okay. I'm about 20,000 words into it, and each book seems to become about 60,000 words total.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm roughly around the halfway point.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.